Welcome to Better Daily Life, where we are moving forward 1% better every single day. Download the app and supercharge your journey at betterdaily.life. Now it's time to ditch facts and get facts with your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What's up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Monday. It is Mindset Monday, and I'm on another level, so you better get up here with me because today we're setting our mindset for the week, and I'm very excited about today's mindset. Today's mindset is don't be a dopamine zombie. So, let's dive in, shall we? First, I do want to say that our Faithful 40 Challenge registration is coming up. Get excited. You'll see that registration link open up in the next week. So watch the app, watch for notifications, watch for the email, and you'll have an opportunity to jump in and join that. And something that's different about this Faithful 40 Challenge compared to our previous Faithful 40 Challenges is that here in the Better Daily community, in the past 6 months, we have split the Better Daily membership. So you can actually be a member of Better Daily. You can download the app, you can log in, and you can communicate on forums and actually have some resources open to you, absolutely free to you. We have a freemium version of the app now, whereas before you had to pay the premium subscription in order to be a part of this community at all. And so we have a freemium subscription open for anybody who wants to join in. So friends and family that you'd like to join you on the Faithful 40 Challenge, it is free to them, even if they aren't currently members of the Better Daily community. The premium subscription is something that you can upgrade to within the application. So there's some of the resources like our actual workout programs, for instance, or past seminars where we've spent an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours together, hashing out something like the effects of trauma on your health and fitness, or weight loss as a topic all together, diving into that, or fasting, or muscle growth. We've done master's level seminar style courses in here in the Better Daily community, and those are behind the paywall. Meal planning, that sort of thing, you can find that in the premium subscription for Better Daily. It's not that expensive. Our premium subscription's $15 a month. And then we do have members in our community here who are on a betterment journey for themselves. This community has been beneficial and good for them, but they also believe in the work we're doing so much that even if they don't want our meal plan, they still upgrade to the premium subscription just to support what we're doing around here. And so I want to say thank you to you guys for being a part of that. You know who you are. Pat yourself on the back and know that you have my gratitude for voting to keep this thing around. And actually, I'm going to talk about that today because I think that's very important. So look out for that link and invite friends and family, and let's do this Faithful 40 Challenge thing without worrying so much about the payment hurdle. All right, so let's dive into this thing. Don't be a dopamine zombie. We have a problem. We do have a problem. And in order for me to articulate that problem to you, I have to educate you a little bit. So everybody grab your head. Your brain runs on a bunch of different things. Sometimes it feels like mine runs on caffeine and goodwill. Not Goodwill the company, Goodwill the goodwill, good intentions, caffeine and good intentions. That should be a bumper sticker somewhere. But there's a couple things inside of your brain that are universal to everybody, and those are called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are a way that the brain communicates motivations and sometimes even feelings, and actually helps to move you in one direction or another. And it's a very, very complicated thing. Our brains are probably the most complicated thing in the universe. Probably. And it's in your head, and we don't know a whole bunch about it. So that's cool. I mean, we do know a lot, but the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know, which is why we haven't made intelligent robots yet, because we can't build brains because we don't know how. That said, there is a neurotransmitter in your brain called dopamine. And dopamine is a wild neurotransmitter. It is the addiction neurotransmitter. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that is released by the most addictive substances that we know about. Things like cocaine and heroin really act on the dopaminergic neurotransmitter system. And so dopamine is this thing that's very, very, very motivating, and even at the detriment of individuals. Dopamine is what lights up the brain when you have a really high sugar, high fat meal, right? So, well, if you want to call it a meal, food item like cake, cake, high sugar, high fat. Dopamine's like, yeah, give me more cake. So dopamine is a crazy powerful motivation neurotransmitter, and it's actually a really important neurotransmitter. So imagine you are pre-industrial era, very hungry, and you see an apple tree in the distance. So you look up and you see the apple tree, and you get a little hit of dopamine, and you go, oh, I need to go closer to that apple tree, right? Because you see it, your attention's focused on it, you get a hit of dopamine that drives you further along the path. And so then you walk a little further and you look up and the apple tree's closer. Boom, a slightly larger hit of dopamine on your reward centers of your brain. And so your brain is telling itself, this is good, let's keep doing this because food's on that tree and we need food, we're hungry. So you get a hit of dopamine and you get closer to the tree and you get a bigger hit of dopamine. You get closer to the tree and you get a bigger hit of dopamine. And then you look up and the apples are up in the branches. You got to climb up there and, you're climbing and you don't even like climbing, but you're going to get up in that tree because you are hungry for an apple, and you grab the apple, you're like, yeah, and you get a giant flood of dopamine right as you bite into the apple, and that's good. And the thing about the way our brain works is our reward centers, the more they're used, the stronger they get. So our reward centers, dopamine reward centers, the more we use them, the more we are motivated by them, the more that they are fulfilled and rewarded, the stronger they get. And so the little part of you in this apple tree scenario, the little part of you that knows how to find apples, climb up in the tree and grab them, is strengthened a little more today and tomorrow and then the next day and then the next day until, well, it's just part of what you do. It's part of what you do to go out to the apple tree and grab an apple, right? And that's completely innocuous. But I want you to understand something about dopamine. Dopamine is a motivational neurotransmitter, and it's very rewarding, but it is not a very intelligent system. It's a very powerful, very intense system, but it's not very intelligent, meaning that it is very simple, and you can easily become motivated and maybe even addicted to things that are not productive or good for you, or your children, or your community, or your betterment journey. And here's the rub. Dopamine is so powerful and so intense that it's very possible that it has overridden things in your life that it does not need to. We'll take technology, for instance. Very ironic, given the fact that I'm probably meeting your ears or your eyes through some form of technology. Technology today has put a powerful computer in the hands of almost every single person on Earth. And the powerful computer allows for the consumption of content and advertisements and pictures and all that stuff that are generally dopaminergically mediated, meaning we can become motivated to use our technology, and we can actually create a reward circuit in our brain that gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger to where it's not even good anymore. And what's crazy is if you add on top of that, social media is a good example. So Facebook started once upon a time as a way, I'm young enough to remember when Facebook started. Social media, Facebook, MySpace was the first version. It wasn't the first version of Facebook, but it was the first thing that a large amount of people glommed onto in the World Wide Web, where people could share pictures and connect with each other's profile and share messages and that sort of thing. It was actually an oxytocin-driven thing. Oxytocin is another neurotransmitter. It tends to bind human relationships, binds mother to child, binds friend to friend. You get a big flood of oxytocin when you give a big hug to somebody. Oxytocin is an intimacy thing. It's not as powerful of a neurotransmitter in terms of intensity as dopamine is. Dopamine is actually quite a bit more compelling than oxytocin with regard to motivation. Right? If you have the option between eating a very large piece of cake or giving a 10-second hug. Generally, the piece of cake feels more rewarding to you in the immediate sense. More intensely rewarding. Hugs, hugs are great, but they're not cake, dang it. There's a woman in my life who joked that if she couldn't have sex, she would just have chocolate, and honestly, chocolate was easier. So that's the idea, though. That's the idea, is that dopamine is very intense, it's simple, it's motivating, it's compelling, whereas oxytocin is, well, it's much longer lasting. It seems to be more meaningful as far as neurotransmitters go, but it's not nearly as intense and powerful, right? Social media started as a place that was mediated by oxytocin. And then somebody said, we could probably make money off of this. We could probably make a lot of money off of this. People's attention's on this right now. And so what would happen if we made this even more interesting, even more attention-driven, even more addicting? How could we do that? Well, once upon a time, Facebook showed up and, you had your profile and you had your people you're connected to, and that was that. And then they came up with this news feed thing where people could scroll through all the stuff that their friends had posted. And all of a sudden, there was this thing everybody was attending to, and they started selling advertising slots on that. And so it was like, hey, if you pay us a certain amount of money, then when people scroll through to see what their friends are up to, and they look for a picture that they're interested in, or maybe a recap or highlight from the weekend everybody had together, whatever, they'll see an ad. And that was a game changer, because all of a sudden we have monetized attention. Attention is a dopaminergically mediated thing in your brain. So you scroll through and now you're attending to things that there's a lot of money being spent on how we can get more and more attention. How can we make this a little more interesting to you? How can we make this a little more catered to what's going on with you? And so now there's attention built into this thing. And so social media shifted away from being an oxytocin-driven thing, a thing that made you feel more connected and helped you be more intentional about your relationships, and became an attention thing. And people feel connected in the sense that they have friends, whatever that means, on social media, but they're not. They'll say, I sat down, I started scrolling on my phone, an hour later, I'm like, oh wow, I have to go to work. And so I lost an hour because all of my attention was in this thing, and I didn't get the warm, fuzzy feeling of a hug. Instead, I was compelled, dopaminergically, I was compelled to do this thing for a while, and then I'm, left empty. Don't become a dopamine zombie. It's not just social media. People do this with content all the time. I saw a meme recently, I think it was on Twitter actually, and it had this dude, he was like asleep in his chair, and it said, me, 10 minutes into the movie that I spent an hour choosing on Netflix. Dopamine says, hey, Netflix probably has something that's interesting to you, and you're like, okay. And so I have an hour and a half to kill, and so what am I going to do? I'm kind of tired, it's the end of my day, whatever, but I'm looking through the stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't look interesting, no, I don't want to watch that crap, no, I don't need to see that movie again. 30 minutes later, I've chosen a movie, I get 10 minutes in, I'm like, this is a stupid movie, and you fall asleep. That's dopamine. Or maybe there's a podcast that you enjoy, and you find other podcasts, and you start listening, and before you know it, you got 7 hours of background noise in your life, and you're not taking anything meaningful away from that. Information is something that you can forage for. Remember the tree with the apple? We are information foraging creatures. We forage for information just like squirrels forage for nuts. That's a dopaminergically mediated process. Don't be a dopamine zombie. Notice when things in your life are pulling your attention without your control. Notice where in your life you're losing hours, literal hours of your life. Notice where you're losing literal hours of your life, where you are a dopamine zombie. You have followed the motivation. You have fallen into the same reward center circuit, the same habit, the same thing you've always done. Notice where you're losing hours and snap out of it. The only way to stop the dopamine cycle is to walk away from it. If you're sick of apples, find an orange tree, man. turn the other direction, walk down that path instead, or better yet, be hungry for a while. Dopamine says, hey, you're hungry. And your brain can say, I've got a few pounds of fat on me. I don't need to eat right now. I really don't need to eat right now. I've got plenty of energy. Dopamine says when you first wake up, hey, grab your phone. Well, I wonder what Facebook is. Shut the app. Shut the app. You don't need that. Go for a walk. Pray for somebody. Write a letter. Read a book. Don't be a dopamine zombie. And this is something that we're challenged with here in the Better Daily community, because this app is not dopamine driven. You are not going to find yourself on Better Daily going, gee, I wonder what's going on in the Better Daily community right now. I really want to scroll through. You won't find advertisements. You won't find millions of dollars spent a year trying to keep your attention here. This is not a dopamine zombie community. This is a community of people who are working to be intentional. Some people are using Better Daily in place of their normal social media, and I applaud you for that. You are not going to get addicted to this community. I certainly don't think you're going to get addicted to listening to me. I hope that you find the places in your life where you're losing hours, and stop losing hours. You don't get those back. Don't be a dopamine zombie this week. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. I hope that you'll wake yourself up from that zombified dopamine state and find something more meaningful to do. Maybe choose the hug instead of the cake. It's not as intensely satisfying, but over time, you won't want the cake anymore, because you'll be so connected to the people in your life that you spent intimate time connecting with. A cake doesn't even sound good, unless you get to share it with them. Until next time, guys, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% better. Be you, just better, in mind, body, and spirit. Go to betterdaily.life, download our app, and check out our 5-star coaching resources. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.life today.